Hey guys, 7th here, back with another video. I know it's been a long time. While we're on the subject, don't forget to like, favorite, subscribe. The more likes you get, the more people are likely to watch my crap. Now, I was thinking the other day, we get a lot of requests here at Casa de 7th for game room tours. I'm not really sure why. It's not like I have a massive collection by any stretch of the imagination, especially compared to some of the other folks out there. But I get requested that a lot. And I realized that it's been almost 4 years since I've done a game room collection tour. And so I decided it was about time to get it done. Now, for those of you who like to go around and watch a lot of different game room tour videos, I should probably explain that what I consider a game room is a lot different than what you'll see with some of these bigger accounts. You're going to see other videos where people have converted their entire basement into a game room, and it's very snazzy with a lot of recessed lighting and really expensive artwork that's been framed and has its own spotlighting with wall-to-wall shag carpet and God knows how many thousands of dollars put into it. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you've got the kind of money to do that and you want your game room to be more of a visual show-off piece, that's fine. That's you. I enjoy watching those as much as the next guy. However, that's not and has never been what I have wanted for myself out of a game room, and let me explain why. Like many of you who, like me, grew up in lower middle class, I started out with a small bedroom across the hall from my parents' room. And as I got older, towards my teenage years, it got to where I just didn't want to be across from my parents anymore and wanted more room and more space and more privacy. And so, like many of you, and possibly some of you who are listening now, I moved down into my parents' basement. And when I lived in my basement, it was basically set up like an apartment. It was split up into two sections. One section was the bedroom area, and that had my bed, my dresser, and all that. And it had my VHS shelves, because DVD didn't exist yet, and my video game shelves. And then the other side of the basement was my gaming area. This had my 1970s era vintage black leather couch and recliner. I had my own college dorm size refrigerator. I had my guitar with all of my guitar equipment, which I had a lot more of it back then than I do now. And of course I had my TV and my stereo and my VCR and all of my game systems. It had been a rush job by my dad, who converted the basement himself into a second den back in the 70s. So it had this ugly 70s era green carpet, and it had imitation wood wall paneling. And so I didn't spend a whole lot of money in regards to decorating it. I had action figures that were still in the package hung up on the walls, and I had posters unframed hung up everywhere. These posters were all given to me free by a couple of gay guys who were friends of mine that ran a local video store up the street. So every time I would come in, they'd have new posters for me to put up, and I would just kind of cycle them in and out. Some of them I always kept, some of them I get rid of for the new thing. You get what I'm saying. I also had some artwork that I did. I used to do a lot of comic book art. I'd take little pictures from comic books and blow them up to full size by just drawing it by hand, looking at the little tiny postage stamp panel from a comic book and then converting it to a full-size picture, and I'd sell them at school and make extra money. But in any case, that was my gaming experience up until the point where I became an adult and I moved into my own apartment. And I felt so at home in that environment that I've kind of just carried that motif with me everywhere I go. So I don't really care about having a game room that makes me look like a millionaire, where it's more about all the artwork and all of the conversation pieces, quote unquote. Mine is all about feeling at home and feeling like I'm still sitting in that basement that I had turned into a bedroom and a gaming room, and all about functionality. Because sometimes, and this is not the case for everybody of course, but sometimes I get the feeling that a lot of these guys that post these game room tours spend more time talking about those games and taking pictures of them than actually playing them, because they always look pristine and immaculate. It doesn't look like anyone actually ever spends any time down there, aside from cleaning it and filming it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just not me. I live in my gaming space. It's not just a room of the house. And especially now, because what you're looking at here is footage from way back in 2016 when I still lived in North Carolina. This is my old house, and basically my game room was my living room. Well, now it's 4 years later, and 8th is about to be 17 years old. He is a junior in high school, if you can believe that, and he's really matured as a gamer. When this was made, he was still primarily just playing on PS4, and he had very specific tastes as to what he liked and what he didn't, and all of that has greatly expanded since we moved to Texas. He's a lot more into the PC gaming than he used to be. He plays a lot more different genres than he used to, and he's become quite the diehard. I mean, he chews up Souls-likes for breakfast, you know what I'm saying? But what that also means is that a lot of the collection that used to stay in the game room has magically, bit by bit, migrated into 8th's room. So my collection no longer exists just in one room, and especially now that I've moved to Texas and I'm no longer living in a 2-story house, but instead I'm living in a 1-story rancher, what we have now is a situation that's less a game room than a game house. It's spread all over, basically everywhere except for the kitchen, the guest room, and the bathrooms. There's a little bit of it in the garage, but that's just boxes of controllers. I'm not going to show you guys that. Then there's the main gaming area, which is the living room, but we call it the game room. And then there's 8th's room, and then there's the room I'm sitting recording this in right now, which I just call the streaming room. Now, technically speaking, I wouldn't say that my collection has grown massively larger since this video was recorded almost 4 years ago, simply because of the fact that, yes, I've acquired a lot more and newer stuff, but I also sold quite a bit of stuff when I moved to Texas. I sold my entire Xbox 360 collection, and along with my Xbox 360 at that time, several PS3 games, a handful of PS4 games, most of my Blu-rays, and I sold my Xbox One at that time and my Xbox One collection that I had at that time. And so I now have an Xbox One X. I have most of the games that I used to own for it, and I'm slowly rebuilding my Xbox 360 collection from what it was. It was mainly just to give us a little bit of extra moving money and have that much less that we had to pack up for the move. And then once I got down here, I slowly started buying it back bit by bit, but also buying a lot of new stuff and different things. So we've got a lot of new stuff to show you. I just wanted to explain that in case you didn't see some of the stuff that was in this older video. It's because I'm slowly buying that stuff back. So without further ado, I think it's time for us to get started on the Game House tour. So here's what you see when you first step in the front door. Got some action figures, which we'll go into those in more detail. And there's the main game shelf and something we'll get into a little bit later there. Just gives you a general idea of the layout of the game room and where everything is in relation to everything else. There's my God of War statue from the collector's edition. Those are badges from Retropalooza, my VIP badges. Got some assorted little figures I bought for $1 at Dollar Tree. That's a recreation of Dracula's castle from the Lugosi film. My custom 7th arcade sign that I got for $300, I think, a few years ago. Deadpool bobblehead. Sergeant Slaughter and Roddy Piper cup that Roddy Piper himself gave me. There's my talking light up zombie head. Always fun conversation piece. And then these are some Avengers figures and the head to Rage 2 Collector's Edition. I don't have all the Avengers figures because the ones that came out for Endgame are just reskins of them in their time travel suits. So the only ones of those I bought were the figures that weren't in the original set, like Ant-Man and whatnot. But I have all the main characters, so that was enough for me. There's my Sony sound system, sound bar. I think I paid $350 for that at Best Buy. This is my 70-inch Vizio HD TV 4K. And there's my level 40 trophies, 128 platinums. PS4 Pro, Xbox 360, OG Xbox modded with 4,000 games on it. That silver box there in the back is an Atari, a Retron 77, which is an Atari 2600 clone. Here's my signed and framed poster from Naughty Dog, autographed by the devs. Here's some Hot Wheels Star Wars figures, vehicles that I got at Dollar Tree for $1. And here you have Ghost Rider, and then another Ghost Rider. Love Ghost Rider. Duke Nukem that I got for free. Bruce Lee, Spawn, Masters of the Universe I got for $5 at Big Lots, and then my Roddy Piper figure. Then over on the other side, you've got the Rocketeer. I'd like to have a nicer one. Indiana Jones, Resistance, and I've got all 4 of the Ghostbusters. I got those at GameStop for $25 a piece. Austin Powers, Dr. Evil. I got those at a thrift store. Well, Dr. Evil I got at Retropalooza. Han Solo I got at Retropalooza. Nude Austin Powers I got at a thrift store. Taxi Driver Zombie from Ghostbusters. Ash from Army of Darkness. Van Helsing. Don't see that one often. And there is my coveted Captain Caveman action figure. Besides the Funko Pop, that's the only Captain Caveman action figure there is, and he's worth about $50. There's Terminator, Khan from The Wrath of Khan, Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, Luke Skywalker, Beetlejuice, which I got at Retropalooza, and Darth Vader, which I got at Retropalooza this past fall. And then you've got Shazam, Aquaman, The Shadow. You don't see that one too often. That's from the movie. And there's Winston and Venkman. And that's a Stay Puft my friend Brian gave me. And there is Captain Jack Sparrow. This is an archway that connects the ductwork from one side of the house to the other. And I use it to store all my collector's edition boxes. This is one side. And then we'll walk around to the other side and show you the boxes that are up there. I've got room for maybe 2 more, and then I'll have to start figuring out a different place to put my collector's editions. And then here's some boxes for retro consoles like TurboGrafx, ColecoVision, Odyssey 2, and Intellivision, Master System, Super Nintendo, and the Ouya! Got a couple of framed posters there. And then these shelves is where I keep the more up-to-date modern stuff. So all of my PS4 stuff is on here. And I've got mostly killer, no filler. Lots of good stuff for PS4. And when you look through here, you're going to see a lot of PlayStation VR games. Because contrary to popular belief, the PSVR does have quite a compelling library. You just got to know what to buy. But some of my collection edition stuff is in there, like Arkham Knight and Persona 5. And I'm pretty happy with my PS4 library. I think it's pretty diverse. It's got about 200 titles to it, give or take. So we got some good stuff in there. A couple of stinkers. Godzilla is still in there, and you know how I think about that one, but it's also worth a lot of money now. Here's my PS3 collection. Again, pretty sizable, about 160 titles. Does have a few stinkers in there, like Coming up here, you're going to see the several of the U-Draw titles. I got those in a lot from Craigslist. They came with a big PS3 lot of stuff. But most of the stuff is games that I bought individually, and I've got some really good stuff in there. Really good stuff. I got a lot of JRPGs because I'm a big fan of JRPGs, and some titles that really should have gotten more love than they did. Now here's what's on the top of the retro shelf. You got some statues from Infamous, Uncharted, Sonic, Mania, the Back to the Future car, Far Cry 4, The Order 1886 and AVGN, Pandora's Box from God of War 3, Uncharted 2 box, Uncharted 4 Nathan Drake, God of War Ascension statue, and Borderlands 2. And then we're going to start looking at the NES carts. Here's just an overall view of that shelving. Got lots of empty shelving left because of splitting it up. I don't have anything super duper rare for NES. I think I've got a couple that are worth over 100, like Demon's Quest 2 and one that I bought off of Billy at one of the last Retropaloozas. I think I paid $100 for it. There's all 6 of the Mega Man games. But, you know, again, most of my stuff that I have for NES is pretty common. But I have what I feel are most of the must-haves, short of some of the super rare stuff, like, say, for example, Little Samson. You know, Little Samson is the rare case of a rare game that's actually good. There's Bible Adventures, because, of course, you have to have your Bible Adventures. Yeah, there it is, Demon's Quest 2. Not Demon's Quest, Gargoyle's Quest 2, my bad, Gargoyle's Quest 2, I think it's what it's called. And, you know, some of this stuff is really, really good stuff. And even, you know, that's one thing about collecting. There's Darkwing Duck. Just because a game is rare doesn't make it good, and just because a game is common doesn't mean that it's not great. There, Scat, or whatever. Scat was one I bought off Billy, and I think it goes for about 100 now, if I remember correctly. I could be off on that, but I think that's about how much it goes. And there's some Electronic Arts Genesis games. Here's some Atari Jaguar. I haven't really gotten into Jaguar collecting yet, so I only have a small handful. Here's some Virtual Boy games that I got at Retropalooza. A couple of Super Famicom games that I got from Retro Game Treasure. Same thing with the Famicom titles. There's Dragon Quest IV for Famicom. I have no idea what that one is. And this gold one, I have no idea what that one is either. And then finally, this is Transformers for Famicom. It was not released on NES because the game, honestly, is a piece of crap. Now here's some of my Vectrex games. And over to the right, you can't see them, but also my Magnavox Odyssey 2 collection. Come on, camera. Work with me here. These are my Atari games. I've got around 90 or 100 of them. They go on for days. Nothing super duper rare in there. There's my beloved Buck Rogers, which was a little better shape. There's Mega Force, which was based on a horrible 80s action movie. Here's my Coleco games. I've got about 40 of those. And then here are my Intellivision games. Same thing. I've got about 40 of those. All good stuff as far as Intellivision goes. And here we get into some of my PS1 stuff. Alundra, the Final Fantasies, you know, some really good stuff. And here's some boxed TurboGrafx games. Here's my Dreamcast collection, which is about 60 titles. It's not the biggest Dreamcast collection, but it's good stuff. Here's what's left of my Blu-ray collection, because remember, I sold most of it, so now it's mostly just odds and ends and a couple of box sets. But, yeah, I've still got some real winners in there. There's like all of Transformers, all of the real Ghostbusters, some Red Dwarf. Here's my original Xbox collection, which it's not huge, but you know, I've got some really good stuff in there. There's Call of Cthulhu, and I'm rebuilding my 360 collection. Still not where it should be, but it's getting there bit by bit. My minuscule Xbox One collection. I only buy exclusives for it, so there's not much to buy. Same thing with Wii U. I only buy exclusives for Wii U, and there ain't much to buy there. And let's go through NES. We got UN Squadron, R-Type, Super Star Wars, Donkey Kong Country 2, and Super Mario World, and Toy Story, Killer Instinct. I'm doing this because you can't see them otherwise. Super Baseball 2020, Ys 3, Wanderers from Ys, Dr. Franken. I'm not sure what that one is. I think that's Fighter History. King of Monsters 2, Illusion of Gaia, Super Godzilla, that's 8th's, Donkey Kong Country, Zelda, Link to the Past, of course you have to have that, Batman Forever, that's garbage, Kirby's Avalanche, Super Castlevania 4, Thunder Spirits, which is the SNES version of Thunder Force 3. Now this is Run Saber. This is my rarest Super Nintendo title, I believe. And it's basically a clone of Strider, made by Atlas. Not very good. It's decent. Ninja Boys, The Rocketeer, but it is rare. King of the Monsters, Star Fox, Spider-Man and the Sinister Six, Wario's Woods, ActRaiser, you gotta have ActRaiser, Contra 3, you gotta have Contra 3, Final Fight 2, I don't have Final Fight 1, Spawn, I don't know why, Super Mario RPG, that's a must-have, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, and Tough Enough, and Scooby-Doo, Lord of the Rings, it's garbage, Secret of Evermore, that's a good one, Animaniacs, Turtles in Time, that's probably my second rarest, Biker Mice from Mars, RoboCop vs. Terminator, Gun Force, which is good, Gradius 3, Pitfall, and this is that skiing game that Sarge bought for $2 from Game Bros. Greg, shout out to Greg, and Super Mario Kart. Now here are my Genesis titles. I'm having to show them this way because of the way I have them set up in the shelf. A lot of them have label damage, and that's because a good chunk of my Genesis collection I bought in a single lot from a guy who had decided he only wanted to keep box complete Genesis games, so he sold all of his loose ones to me in a lot. Some of them were in good shape, some of them the labels were in not so good shape, like there's my Contra Hardcore, and you got Truxton and Forgotten Worlds, Ernest Evans. There's some good stuff in here. Sonic 2, World of Illusion, Revenge of Shinobi, Shining in the Darkness, Phantasy Star 4, that's a must-have, Two Crude Dudes, Light Crusader, Marsupilami, Galaxy Force 2, and we got Dick Tracy, Castlevania Bloodlines, that's another must-have. There's Planet Funkatron, the sequel to Toe Jam and Earl, and Dungeons and Dragons, Thunder Force 2, Strider, Mystic Defender. Mystic Defender is a surprisingly good game. Golden Axe 2, and X-Men 2, Mercs, Gaiaris, amazing shooter, very difficult though. Shockin' the Forever Man, High Seas Havoc, which is kind of a pirate-themed Contra clone, Midnight Resistance. Sonic clone, Midnight Resistance Contra clone. This is my rarest Genesis title. This is Crusader of Sentai. It's a Zelda clone, and even just cart only like that, it can get up to $300. Dynamite Heady. I didn't pay that much for it, but yeah. Shining Force 2, Batman Returns. I hate the Genesis version of Batman Returns. And here's our couch. It's a dual recliner. There's Sarge's hat, and this is a Sega Game Gear. It's got maybe 15 games in it. It's got new capacitors, new screen. Here's a different shelf. This is where I keep my box complete Genesis games. There's the Enterprise, a Rubik's Cube of the Hellraiser thing. There's my Vita case. And here's just some box complete Genesis games. Ghostbusters, Jewel Master, surprisingly good. Lightning Force, Arcus Odyssey, Batman, Last Battle, which is actually Fist of the North Star, Saturday Night Slam Masters. And here is my Hyperstone Heist, and right next to it is a box complete Gunstar Heroes. Then you've got my pitifully small Master System collection. And here's my PS2 collection, which it's around, I want to say around 80 or 90 titles. Might be a little bit less than that, I can't remember. But I've got some really good stuff in there as well. And here is my Wii collection, or at least a chunk of it. There's the only box complete NES game I have, and that was sent to me by Retro Game Treasure. That's a bunch of empty Vita cases where the former Mrs. 7th took the games when she left and left the cases. Here's some more of the Wii stuff. A pretty small GameCube collection. I just haven't gotten into that much. I've only got 6 games for the 3DO, and there's some TurboGrafx games where I made the cases myself. That's my rarest one right there, Jackie Chan's Action Kung Fu. It's around $200, I think. There's some Saturn stuff. I have more Saturn than this. These are just the ones that I've made cases for. Same thing with Sega CD. These are my Sega CD games, and I made custom cases for them. I've got more that are just sitting in binders. And there's some more of the TurboGrafx. And just another look at that shelf. Got my Hellraiser Rubik's Cube. And some spare extra shelving there. And there's my Transformers poster and my Christmas Vacation poster that 8th actually bought me. That movie has some special value for me and him. We watch it every Christmas. It's kind of a family tradition. And here's the streaming room. This used to be 8th's room. Got a lighting fixture there, and just give you a quick layout of the room. Bunch of posters. There's my green screen for when I need it. And some more posters over here. Let me close the door. Back to the Future. There's Kiss and Hellraiser, God of War, and Legend of Zelda. This is my little Bluetooth jukebox. I can run my my phone through Spotify to that and listen to it. Got Optimus Prime. Got the statue from Arkham Origins, I think it was. That's my talking, dancing Bumblebee. My Transformers lunchbox, my Virtual Boy, my Playmates Voltron that does split into lions, the tumbler. There's my Master System, the N64. I've got another one of those out in the garage. My ColecoVision, the Super Nintendo, Top Loader NES. This is my custom NES. It's dusty. I haven't dusted in probably 3 months, but it's got 7th's Arcade on it with my 7th logo, and it lights up bright red when you turn it on. Here's my Beetlejuice, my PlayStation 2, PS1. I don't have the original model. I want one though. GameCube, 3DO, Magnavox Odyssey 2, Atari 2600 Vader Edition, the Jaguar, Intellivision with the voice module, Dreamcast, Wii, and the Gremlin statue Brian got me. My Terminator statue, TurboGrafx 16, the Saturn, Sega Genesis CD and 32X, and there's my Atari 7800, and there by itself is the Retron 5, forgotten about, and 2 expansion modules for the ColecoVision. 8th got me that Terminator for my birthday, I think, and 8th got me this for Christmas. This is my Turk 182 poster. It's from a movie. It's one of my favorite movies from the 80s, right, 1985. And that poster actually hung in 1985 in a theater in Canada, and so it's a very it's a very old poster. So I wanted to get it framed, and I just haven't found a good place to put it up in the house. If you've never seen that movie, you should check it out. It's pure 80s cheese, and it's glorious. There's my Ibanez guitar. It's got this carved spider web look to it. It was only $400. I bought it 10 years ago. Actually, I bought it, 10 years ago. And there's my little Fender Mustang modeling amp there. I know it's small, but it puts out a lot of volume. That's the TV I use for retro gaming whenever I do retro gaming in here to stream. That's a picture of Stranded J that he sent me. And my PS3 was sitting there too. There's my monitor with my speakers, keyboard, my new HyperX microphone. There's my Stream Deck. And here's my chair. People always asking for the brand. It's Andaseat. Andaseat. This one is different from your usual racing chairs because it's made for fat people like me. It's got a 400-pound weight limit on it. It's steel reinforced. It's got additional padding that the Racer X chairs don't have. It's real leather. I think I paid about $400 for it. There's my broken microphone. And here is my Captain Caveman Funko that Stranded J sent me, and my Vectrex that was anonymously Billy donated. Then my broken arm that I don't use anymore because I got the HyperX now. And the controls for my speaker system, which is nothing special, just a Logitech speaker system with a subwoofer. And that cartridge there that says thank you, that was a cartridge the Game Chasers gave me for helping out with Retropalooza. And here's my computer, i7-4790 with two 970s and SLI, 16 gigs of RAM. I'm looking to replace it this year with something a bit more beefy. And then all this stuff lying on the floor is just random crap that I haven't put anywhere else. Like I've got a little Venom poster there and a Tasmanian devil that used to belong to my dad that farts when you move its arm, and some other stuff that I just haven't bothered to put away. There's my megaphone. You know, every now and again I break that out during the 7th cast. And now it's time that we go look at the other room. We are going to venture over to the other side of the house into the deep, dark, unknown regions that are known as 8th's room. So you'll notice that things are getting darker as we head this way. That's because that's the way 8th likes them, and me too, because I usually keep the lights off in the game room because of my light sensitivity. That's Factor 5. That's a superhero that 8th invented when he was a kid. Those were drawn for him by Hellhound 30X, if those of you who remember Hellhound. And there's Godzilla eating some lawn gnomes, All Might, Geralt, and Bioshock Infinite. We got some 3DS games and PS4 games and PS Vita games. We've got a pretty sizable Vita collection and some books, and we saw briefly his Switch collection, or our Switch collection, some Godzilla figures, and lots of posters. God, lots of posters. As far as Switch goes, it's all killer, no filler. I don't believe in buying indie games I already have on PS4 just to make it look like the Switch has a large library. I only buy the exclusives. Got some more posters there. Some of that stuff is stuff we got at Retropalooza. Some of it is just free posters that we've gotten at the movie theater. If it's something cool that he likes, he buys it. He's got a bunch of Berserk posters. Stranger Things, got the little googly eye skeletons. There's the PSVR, and he's got a gun there, Buzz Lightyear. Got his PS4 Pro, the Xbox One X is there, though you might not be able to see it because of how dark he keeps it in there. And there's his Switch right there, or our Switch I should say. 50-inch 4K TV. And down at the bottom, that's his stereo system. It's a shelf system. It's Bluetooth capable, so again, he just runs his Spotify from his phone to it and can listen to his music. And here's his At Games Legends Ultimate Arcade cabinet. He's got that. He's got a USB thumbstick running to it that has hundreds of MAME titles on it. For the price I paid, which was $600 plus shipping, it's absolutely fantastic. I might do a video just about it. And he's got his Revenge of the Jedi poster, because that was the original title. A couple of more Berserk posters. And you'll see he's got a couple of his weapons that he has. Like he has some weapon from, I can't remember what game, but he's got a couple of guns. One from Fallout that Brian gave him, and one that he bought from Retropalooza. There's all of his PSP titles. That's actually 8's biggest collection. Crap ton of PSP. He loves PSP collecting. I don't know why, but he just does. More Godzilla. There's a Berserk action figure, Kratos, Chewbacca, the Fallout collection, a statue from Tokyo Xanadu, I think it was called. Gurren Lagann there, Killzone, Batman, Street Fighter V, the Hulk. Just some good stuff there. That TV is a 50-inch 1080p TV, but it has a 120 hertz refresh rate with simulated oversampling that bumps it up to the equivalent of 240. So he keeps it in there both for playing older systems, and he'll often, if he's playing a first-person shooter on PC, he'll run it to that TV to get the faster frame rate for when he's doing competitive multiplayer. And here's his Funko Pops. He's got a bunch of Funko Pops here. All sorts of Funko Pops. Funko Pops out his ass. There's some cool stuff in there if you're into those. There's Scrooge McDuck. There's Ninja Gaiden 3 Collector's Edition. Of course, you got Stay Puft, Alien Queen, Godzilla. I'm not sure which one that one is. That might have been King Kong. Here's his computer and his Oculus Rift. It's i7 8700K, I believe. It's got GTX 2060 Super and 16 gigs of RAM. He's got a triple monitor setup going on here. And there is his art tablet that he got for his birthday this year. And then you've got some more posters. Always more posters. Iron Giant, more Berserk. There's the box that his Death Stranding plastic light-up fetus came in for $200, which, if you were watching closely, you saw the plastic fetus just a few minutes ago. And then we're going to take a turn around and just give you more of a panoramic view of what 8's room looks like. Honestly, the bed is probably what gets the least amount of use in this entire room. That's Eternal Ring for PS2 playing on the screen there, by the way. And here's the piece de resistance. This is my multicade, custom made by Captain Retro. He had never built one before, wasn't quite working right when he first delivered it to me. The iPack needed to be reprogrammed, so he sent a tech out to reprogram it for me, and so now it's working a lot better. It's still missing a few games that I wanted on there. There's about 160 ROMs that are missing, and the trackball doesn't quite work yet. The tech's coming back out to handle both of those issues next visit. As you can see, it's got my custom artwork of me and 8th on there. Of course, that's before 8th grew a beard. Oh, 17 years old, a full beard. Unbelievable. But that used to be a Captain America and the Avengers cabinet from Data East. You press those two buttons, and it brings up this menu. And I've got hundreds and hundreds of arcade ROMs in there. And that's CRT, baby. Original CRT. No LCD or LED screens here. This is old school. It's the original cabinet just running off of a Retro Pi. And you've got all these old systems too. Neo Geo, all the games for it. Anyway, that's our game room tour. Hope you enjoyed it. And again, give old 7th a like, a favorite, and a sub. And come see me on the 7th cast next week.